Hey, Taylor.
What's up, Larry? We're in a different environment today.
Yeah, if you're joining us on the cutting room floor on video, you'll see that we're road tripping.
That's right. But we're not doing like a out west road trip or anything like that.
No,
we didn't just decide to pick up and go.
We didn't bail on our families or
wives
anything.
would shoot us.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't go well at all.
Yeah.
So what have we been doing?
Yeah, so you, myself, and Pastor Wes and our former lead pastor, Pastor George, have been at our Sanctification Network retreat. This is sort of our new tribe that we've been a part of the last couple of years, and really soul-giving stuff. And we spend time loving on God and learning together best practices. Pastor West and I were able to brag on Grace Church for a little bit with this group of about 40 other pastors and churches, and then today we've just been learning from leader of the Spiritual Leadership Inc. These are our leadership coaches, and really helping us discover how we can continue as a church, making more maturing disciples of Jesus.
Yeah, that's the thing that I noticed is like everybody there was on that same thing. Like, this isn't just a Grace Church thing that we talk about with more maturing disciples. This was all of us, and we were united in that mission and that passion to see God do something in our churches. So it's been really good.
Yeah, this is your first one, huh?
My first one.
Yeah.
Also really tiring. So this is going to be a short podcast because we're tired. We're tired, and life marches on.
That's right.
Y'all get that. So this last Sunday, you and Taylor Brown wrapped up the Winning at Home series for us, and we had a lot of fun with this at Central, and I know folks loved the take-home stuff with that. And so we built a house together, and we talked about how family, it doesn't necessarily have to be the traditional way we think of family or home, but it's the people that you do life with.
Jesus expands this for us.
Yeah.
The family of God. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about foundations, we talked about framing and rhythms for our home, and this week we talked about the roof. And protection. So why don't you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so we just really leaned in hard that God is our refuge, and that the storms of life come. But that also means that we might be talking about winning at home, that we always want to win, but we do have failures. And at the Cape campus, Taylor Brown and I are just really emphasize that, just being silly, but just talking about some of our family fails, and because we're all in this together. There's no perfect family. One of the things I love, there's so many things I love about the Bible, but one of the biggest things I love is when you look at the families that are portrayed in Scripture, there is no perfect family. And some of y'all might think, well, what about Jesus' family? What about, Mary and Joseph? Well, they left Jesus at the temple when he was a child. Like they left him.
Whoops.
And that actually reminds me of a story of my own family. When I was a kid growing up, I was actually 1 year old, and I have 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters. I was the, how do I put this? I was the surprise baby.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
We have one, yeah.
Some might say oops, some might say accident. I say joyful surprise.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes.
So when I was 1, my parents decided to take my family out west on the great, the outdoor big out west trip. Some of y'all have done this. My brother at the time probably was 8 or 9, and this is before cell phones. We were in a big utility conversion van.
Boom.
And we stopped at a gas station. Everyone got back in the car. At least we thought. At least my parents thought. I was 1, and they drove off. 45 minutes down the road, they recognized that my brother Richard was not in the car. So they turned around, and my brother was there sitting on a little car bump, parking bump, just waiting for his parents to come back. It's the day before DCF and all that good stuff. But my family, actually, my family up in Kentucky, we love talking about some of our fails. We get a good laugh out of that.
Yeah.
So we're all human. We're all in this together.
Right.
Like I said, even Jesus is in this together.
Yeah. And when we talk about the protection, and finding our refuge, God, from those failures and things. I think what's interesting in the when you go back to the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus talks, we used that the first week, the building the right foundation, whatever. He doesn't say if storms come.
Right.
When the storms come.
Yeah, they come.
And that's what we've been talking about through this whole thing. You got to make sure you have the right foundation and the right frame, the right rhythms, but also know where your refuge is, because it's not if, it's when trials are going to come, when storms are going to come. It's just a certainty.
Yeah, it's just these storms they look a lot different for all of us.
Right.
They can be financial storms. They can be relational storms. They can be job storms. They look a lot different, and they come. And I think sometimes when we talk about God as our protection, God as our refuge, we think that He's just going to stop all storms from coming. But that's not the case. Instead, the invitation is for Him to be our refuge, for Him to be our protection. In those storms.
When you have a roof on your home, you don't just put it up when you see a storm coming. It's there all the time.
There all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. And you rely on that. And so we leaned into a couple of scriptures. One came from the Gospel of Mark, where Jesus was asleep on the boat with His disciples. The storms came, and He rebuked the wind, rain, and it was His very presence there that was the refuge. And then we looked at Psalm 46.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time there, because it starts off, God is my refuge. He is my help in times of trouble. And really where we camped out is that our refuge is found not in a physical structure. It's not in the church. It's not in the building, but it's actually in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And I think for us, we said, in times of the things that we do in times of calm, in times of normalcy, when things just seem, normal time or whatnot, the rhythms that we create there are really going to be the muscle memory for us when things are chaotic.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, and that's just being proactive with our souls, with our faith. A lot of times in our lives, we are reactive, particularly with storms coming. For us in Southwest Florida, we get this, and so when we know that there's storms coming, we get proactive. We gather supplies. We do a lot of those things.
I wonder how many people figured out they couldn't return the bottled water. For Hurricane Helene.
Yeah. So you'll use that, but for our souls, we need to be proactive as well. And so that's creating times of being in God's presence. And so
even when it feels hard.
Right. Yeah. So Larry, let me ask you a question. I'm going to flip it a little bit.
Okay.
So for you, what does being in the presence of God look like for you in your everyday life as you're going throughout your day?
Yeah, so it's one of the things I was actually talking about with my group at Sanctification Network. Like, solitude is a really important thing for me. That's my refuge with God. I know it's one of the things we talked about in the sermon this week. And life's just been a lot lately. We've had we traveled for a wedding. My grandpa's going on to hospice care, so we stopped and visited him. We've had sick kids. We've had other travels and just the normal things of life. Solitude has been that place of refuge, like just being alone with Jesus. Like, so Friday's my Sabbath day off, and since Brittany's gone back to work, I've been able to go to the beach by myself most Fridays, which love, by the way.
Yeah.
But like after we did all that travel, I just sat on the beach, and like it was just like the balloon of my stress and worries just deflated. And that because it was just, it's 7:30 in the morning. There's not hardly anybody at the beach yet. It's just me and Jesus. At that point. And so solitude is one of those structures that I've put up that I just run to over and over again.
That's good. For me, it's a couple of things. It is creating rhythms of just being quiet and being with the Lord, and not expecting, to have some great revelation or anything like that, but just being with God. And in the season that we're in, finding quiet is really hard. The season my family's in, and so I do cherish those moments. And something else too, of going in the presence of God for me is the act of remembering, and sometimes even physically going to some of those holy spaces.
Yeah.
You know, we all in our lives, if we've been following Jesus for a while, we can think of spaces and places, but even just moments where God was very present in our lives. Let me say that God's presence was very tangible in our lives.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Thin places.
Palpable. Yeah, those thin places. We talk about these thin places where heaven meets earth. And so for me, I will sometimes even go to those spaces that are holy places for me, that I remember, you know, where God was in those moments.
Yeah.
So I try to do that somewhat regularly, not just in times of crisis and times of storms, but just to remember, because it is okay sometimes for our souls when we feel that we're in a drought, we feel that our souls aren't great, and the gift is to remember.
Yeah.
If you've ever spent time reading through the Old Testament, a lot of the commands from God and the teachings from God and to his people, or what he would call the prophets to declare, is remember, I am Yahweh, the God who brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery.
And I just thought of this when we were talking about, you know, winning at home, even building at home. Like, they would literally build structures to help remember those places. You know, they built an altar to remember what the Lord had done, or when the disciples witnessed Jesus transfigured. Let us build tabernacles. You know, like to mark those places of remembering.
Yep. And
that's
even,
good.
And even in week 1 of the series, Win at Home, we talked about Deuteronomy 6. That as you're going throughout your day, share these commandments with your children, but those that you live with. Write them on your doorposts, write them on your hands and on your forehead. Like, all these things to create space to be in the presence of God. Remember these things. Remember these things. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what I'm remembering right now is we need some road trip snacks.
Yes.
We're going to have to pull off here.
That's right. That sounds good to me.
Pretty soon. So, hey, thanks for joining us on the cutting room floor for this abbreviated episode. We're back next week. We're starting a new series this week called Everyday Mission. And this is something that we're just really passionate about at Grace Church, helping every person who calls Grace Church their spiritual home to find out what their calling is, what their mission in life, that it's not something that's reserved for pastors, and that we're all called and we all have a mission, and God longs to partner with us in what he's doing in this world. So we'll save that for next week, because we're going to have to fight over some snacks here.
Yes, and Larry, I think we're lost.
We might be. It's, I don't know. We've just been turning, and
it's all good. Hopefully your pastors will see you on Sunday.
Yeah, maybe we'll see you on Sunday. See y'all later.
All right, bye.